The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Stand up and live your life! Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Hands up high!
Psychiatry in all of this time doesn't have one case report of one disease validated, not one. What they do is they meet at the American Psychiatric Association. They meet in the DSM committee, Diagnostic Statistical Manual Committee, and they vote on making new behavioral and emotional disorders. And they vote, and then they start immediately calling them diseases. And they tell people, they tell the public these are diseases. Total fraud. Total fraud.
The actual truth about chemical balance is that it's an actual lie. Nobody has yet measured, demonstrated, or created a test to show that somebody has a chemical imbalance in their brain. Period.
What the American public should be thinking about is when they or their loved ones or their friends have received a psychiatric diagnosis, they should be asking the doc, geez doc, where's the chemical test for that? Where is the objective test for this? And I guarantee you that they'll be told, we don't have a chemical test for that.
There are no biological tests for any mental illnesses that I'm aware of.
There are not current available tests to verify your diagnosis.
There is no test. There is no specific test to differentiate between, let's say, schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Not a single test.
Yeah, we have not really confirmatory test for the diagnosis.
There is no test, there's no biopsy you can do that says this person is depressed, this person is bipolar.
We don't have anything really currently to identify mental illness per se.
No, there are no specific tests to confirm the diagnosis or show the improvement, like any blood tests or any x-rays or anything like that.
Oh, in my practice I don't do any tests. I just speak with people and listen to them, and then I make a decision in what kind of illness there should be.
We don't really have any specific blood tests or other tests that are definitive for any mental illness whatsoever.
What kind of biological tests do we have available today for detecting mental illnesses?
None.
There is no rational science behind what they think is the cause of these symptoms. The medications that are being given to people are, without exception, introducing chemicals that are altering the brain in ways which can be very damaging. And I'll go a step further and say that in the absence of a proven chemical imbalance for which the medications are, quote, rebalancing or fixing, the medications are in fact toxic.
How many patients have you been able to cure so far?
I would say one.
How many people have I cured? Well, there are no real cures right now in psychiatry.
The idea of you asked me about the issue about how many people I've cured. I don't know that any of us are ever completely cured of anything.
I have not been able to cure many patients.
I have cured none of my patients.
So you have to ask the classic Roman question, legal question, cui bono, who benefits? The people who make the diagnosis.
Welcome to the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini. And today's announcements, we want to thank Jay Jung he's the owner of City Athletic Club. They're located at 7980 West Sahara Avenue, 89117. He's a partner with our show, Rise Above. We also want to thank mealprepvegas.com. Their phone number is 702-624-9286. Their meals start at $7.50. They're prepared and customized to your liking, and they're delivered to your door. There's no GMO, they're organic, and they're preservative free. Their email is mealprepvegas.com. And then I just want to make an announcement about the workshops that'll be coming up monthly for the Butterfly Effect, which are the self-esteem classes that we're featuring as part of the women's self-esteem workshops, and we're also going to be venturing into men's workshops along the line, couples workshops, and a lot of things new coming on the Rise Above show. Joe has a YouTube account now that he can put his videos up if he wants to, his either fitness videos, psychology videos, whatever. And then I have a YouTube account now for the Butterfly Effect. So you can find me at Heidi Mancini, the Butterfly Effect on YouTube.com, and I'll be making posts, when I can, about what's coming up in the future or workshops that we've done, and that's it. That's all I have.
All right, so today I want it to be a continuation of our last show that we did on depression, and I want to title this segment of the show "Skills, Not Pills." And we did play a video in the beginning, and as you can see, that's really an eye-opener for a lot of people. Now, what we did was we had a video of psychologists. The psychologists, they can prescribe drugs. A therapist or a psychologist cannot, but a psychiatrist can. And what happens is, as you see, even they can tell you, and they're in the business, that they don't cure any people with medication. Let me go through a few facts here for you. 25% of college students are either on or have been prescribed psychotropic medications. The psychiatrist's business model is to see 4 patients per hour. Think about that. It's going to be about 15 minutes per person, which is less because you got to get them in and out of the room. Mm-hmm. Is there any chance to talk to that person about what their needs are, or what's hurting them, or why they feel the way they do? No. You go there and you get a prescription for medications. That's what you do. Between the years 1988 to 2008, there's been a 400% increase in the use of antidepressants. Now, that's old information. It's even much worse now. 1/3 of the mental health care issues are treated by primary care doctors.
Right. I was just going to say that.
Think about that.
We're talking about counselors or psychiatrists prescribing, but they're not prescribing probably as much as the regular general doctors are, and they know far less about mental illness. They basically, it's a pharmaceutical company comes in the office and says, we have Zoloft, that's a special of the month. Mm-hmm. So if you can prescribe this to as many people as you can, you get to go on a trip, you and your family, to, I don't know, some foreign place, or we'll sponsor you in a new car. So unfortunately, it comes down to, let's push this drug. This is the drug of the month. And if as long as they say it's an antidepressant, and somebody comes in the office and says, oh, I'm feeling a little blue, I'm feeling a little, whatever. Oh, we have this new, I want you to try this. It's blah, blah, blah. The doctors really don't know anything about it. The pharmacists actually know more about the prescription drugs than the doctors, and even sometimes the psychiatrists that are prescribing it. They know the symptoms, but they don't really know a lot of how the interactions happen and things like that.
That's
so
true.
Usually the pharmacists are the ones that do an interaction. I've had that happen to me in the past when a doctor's prescribed something and the pharmacist said, well, did you know that? And it's like, no, I didn't, but I'm glad you told me. And then you can make a choice of whether you want to take the drug or not.
Right, and where it starts too, I think, is all these commercials on TV with the little purple guys and stuff like that. And then people see it and they go, oh, I want to feel better. and they go to the doctor and they say, I want this medication. Now, for whatever ethical reason a doctor can make up, they end up prescribing because they just assume that the patient's going to go to another doctor, so they might as well just hand out the prescription. And they do that. But like you said, I like what you said there because it's totally true. The popularity of the drug is not based upon whether it works or not. It's based upon whether the commercial is good and enough people ask for it. You know, that's the first part. And then the second part is that they have these medical reps that go around to the doctors. And depending on how pretty the girl is, right, let's be honest, what they'll do is they'll make a deal with the doctor. And they'll say, if you can make this many prescriptions by the end of the month, you'll get a free trip to Hawaii. And then they start writing the scripts. But they have no background whatsoever in mental health. And on top of that, there is no studies that will tell you that these antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications work. As a matter of fact, the side effects on them, one of them is suicide ideation, right? So that kind of goes back against
and it
what
also
it's
goes
supposed
back
to do.
to the accountability of the patient, because this is the other argument that they would have is they would say, well, just because we prescribe something doesn't mean you have to take it. So there's the other side of it that, you know, the patient has to be a little more educated, I think, today and know what they're walking into so that they can make their own educated choice. And I think it does come down to, you know, it's like when you go into surgery, you know, they tell you, well, we need to do this surgery on you. And you're kind of wondering, well, do I really need this surgery or what should I do? Normally you would go for a second opinion. So in that situation, why wouldn't you get a second opinion or even a third on whether you should go on, you know, an antidepressant, anti-anxiety pill? You know, it sounds kind of crazy, but, you know, when you're talking about mind-altering drugs, if we would do the same thing for somebody's going to cut us open, why wouldn't you take responsibility for your mental health? So my point would be is that we don't always have to do what we're told we should do, or we shouldn't always take something. You know, it's like when somebody offers you a drug. I've said this to people in the past. If somebody comes up to me and they go, I'll be totally honest with you. I've had people, I've said I had a headache and I need an aspirin or I need an Aleve or something. And I mean, these are people that I know and I trust them. But there's a small part of me that I will examine the pill to make sure that what I'm taking is an Aleve or an aspirin, because even then I'm kind of a little concerned that, you know, I hope they're not giving me a speeder or something, because, you know, some of my people that I know they do recreational stuff. So then I'm going, well, I hope, you know, so I always question everything. So I think as a consumer, although we can Google everything on the internet, and of course all the side effects are there, so you can easily go to your doctor with a list that you've memorized. I have this, this, and this. And, you know, the doctors, like you said, they want to help people. I don't think doctors are always, you know, out there to, like, win a trip and all that. I think there's really good ones, and I think there's the ones that aren't. It's like everything. But as a consumer and as with your own health, you need to question these things. So, I mean, the first thing I would do is if somebody tells me I have bipolar disorder and it's only my second, a therapist, anybody, it doesn't matter if they're a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, not psychologist, psychiatrist, it doesn't matter who the heck they are. If you go into a doctor's office and in 1 or 2 sessions they tell you you have whatever the list is on the DSL, or is it DSL? Or DSL?
I know what DSL is. No,
DSL.
It's not that.
It's not DSL, people. We all know what DSL means. It's not that. It's the DSM. And it's ridiculous, you know, when you think about it. So, you know, just because, you know, you can't diagnose somebody with anybody the first time they sit down or the second time in your chair. I remember a guy here in Vegas, a local doctor, and I don't know his name. I could tell you his color, and I don't want to do that either, but he's known here in Vegas for that. And he diagnosed my daughter with bipolar and manic depression in 2 sessions, or actually 1, and put her on lithium, which is a really strong I don't know what it is, drug, and some other stuff. And of course, when I went in the office after to say, hey, you know, you shouldn't be prescribing her anything because I'm the other parent and you're not allowed to do that by law. You have to run this by me. And the runaround that I got, and basically you need to come back with proof that you're her mother, which I did. Go back the next day with my divorce papers and my everything I needed. This doctor still said to me, what would make you happy? what would make me happy is if you do your damn job, and half of these people out there that are sitting in your office that look like they're all doped up, you would take care of that. I said, you prescribed mentally altering drugs to a teenager that, by the way, did she tell you that she drinks occasionally or recreationally, and she also smokes marijuana on a daily basis? I mean, so what I'm saying is that there's all these issues all the way around, and I think as a consumer you need to be smart about what you're putting in your bodies, and just because they have DR next to their name or MD doesn't mean that they have your best interests at heart all the time.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but here's the other part, that okay, you're educated, right? You're in the health business, and so we do this a lot. So we have these questions, right? But you take the average person that looks up to a doctor, you know, the whole white coat thing, and says, you know, I respect this person. You're not, it's very hard to challenge them. Like I think where I was, right? Like when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I wouldn't think to challenge some doctor that's been to school for 15 years. So I think it's really hard to look up on Google and even know what to look up. Because even from last 2 weeks ago, we did a really good show on depression, and I keep saying that there is absolutely no test to discover if there's a chemical imbalance. You got to hear the wave of people that keep saying, but for me, but for my friends, but for my family, this medication works and I need it. And what about? They are fighting so hard for their right to do drugs, and that they don't even want to hear the truth when you give them the truth. So it's really easy when a doctor says, hey, I'm going to prescribe this to you, that they just roll right with it. And I don't know who's totally to blame, but I would say our society is such a pill-taking society that no matter what it is, if you just say this can help you, and you don't have to do any work, and you don't have to do anything, but there is something wrong with you, everybody just jumps towards it. So you're 100% right. We can't be sitting in that learned helplessness thing and that whole I'm a victim of life and just let it run over me. I get that. But some people, they just have no idea what's right and what's wrong.
And the thing
until
is,
we tell
with
them,
nutrition,
they still don't believe it.
We know the same thing with nutrition, that there's no secret pill to losing weight and being healthy. It's basically what you put in your body is what affects your body. And yet we still are faced with, you know, people want to middle it, and they want to find the easy way out. Well, if there was, I mean, I think we all would be doing the easy way out because it would save a lot of time and money. So again, I think a lot of times it's, like you say, people just want to fall into the victim mentality, or, you know, it's just really difficult. I think for some people it's really difficult to climb out of the hole because, again, there's other factors around that, and if you stay in that same dependent, codependent environment that's causing you maybe to have low feelings, and I don't want to say depression, but you're in an environment that's not good, it's very scary for some people, whether it be monetarily or anything, to remove themselves from that, you know, environment so that they feel better. And I've been there in different times in my life, and you know, it's sometimes you just feel like, well, what's the point, you know? Well, sometimes you just got to get past what's the point and just, you know, take a leap of faith and move on.
Right. So as we speak, there are a lot of people who are addicted to prescription meds, including, by the way, when we talked about Chester Bennington, he was addicted to that also. And Chris Cornell, who also committed suicide by hanging himself, they found him with 7 different types of medications in him. Well, they said he beat his drug addiction because he wasn't on cocaine anymore, but he replaced it with 7 other things. So at what point do we say, you know what, if you're going to go off one drug and go on the others, but not have any tools on how to live a decent life, they're obviously going the wrong way. So between the prescription meds, that's a problem, and we have this opioid epidemic. The question, I think, becomes, why don't people change their lifestyle? Why don't people try to strengthen their core of who they are instead of just going and get drugs?
Well, I think it comes down to they don't know what feels good, and they may not have ever had a feeling, you know, good. Or it's like when you eat healthy and, you know, you're eating healthy and you go, oh God, this is so sucks, I can't wait to eat a piece of cake or something stupid. And then you eat the piece of cake and you go, oh my God, like I can't believe that people walk around every day feeling this sluggish and this whatever, and they think it's normal. So I think when you're in a drug-induced stupor, I think in their brain they function, they get through a day, they probably obviously think that's normal for, because I've talked to people that do, you know, drugs on a regular basis, and they basically say it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect my performance in my job, it doesn't affect my relationships. And you look at them and you clearly go, but it is. I can see how it's
Everybody else
affecting
can see it.
your, you know, your performance at your job. I can see how it's affecting some of your relationships. I look at the people that are in your life and I'm like, oh my God, those people wouldn't even be within 2 feet of me because they're just sketchy, you know. And so I don't know. I think there's a lot. Again, there's so much to dig through, that it's like, where do you start with everything?
You got to start from the beginning. My answer to it is that I think we live in an instant gratification type of world, and they see the potential to handle the problem real quick. And the other way is, I don't think people want to work hard. I think it's much easier to get high than it is to go and get help. It's just much easier that way for some people in the short term. So they just go and get high. Now, what I mean by high is, I don't mean just using cocaine or heroin. I'm talking that when you change your perception of the way you see the world or how you connect to the world, that's the same thing when you're taking anti-anxiety or antidepressant medication. You are altering your brain to change. You're not doing it. So there's nothing about that medication that's actually helping you. It's changing the feel. Like, I've heard this before. Somebody was telling me, yes, but the meds work for me. I'm like, well, if I have social anxiety and I go to a party and I'm nervous to talk to somebody, I can have a couple of drinks and then I could tell you I can talk a little bit easier and I feel better. That doesn't mean that alcohol is something that I should be doing on a regular basis to get over my anxiety. It's the same thing with pills. It's like, well, it works. Well, and therein lies the problem, right? Most people that are addicted to drugs don't think the drugs are the problem. They think it's the solution. And that's why you can't get them off the drugs, because it's their solution, because they haven't figured out to do the hard work, to really get in and talk about, like what we did the last time, about the childhood trauma, why you don't like yourself. People who do heroin and things like that, they don't love themselves. That's number one. Number two, they have this inability to deal with regular human emotion. Being anxiety is one, depression is another. These are normal emotions that people need to feel. When you keep medicating them, there's a huge problem.
I think if people realize that, you know, all the feelings that we go through, emotions, whatever we want to call them, they're very fleeting, you know, depending on what you're going through. And even in the worst case scenario, when somebody dies, I mean, I've lost, you know, my dad, and I've lost people that are close to me. You know, when you're in it, you think this is never going to go away. Like, am I ever going to feel okay? The answer to that is yes, you will feel okay. And I guess you got to just focus on something else to maybe take your mind off of it. I mean, you don't ever forget certain things, but even in the worst case scenario of somebody dying, as painful as it is, you will get through it, and you'll learn how to, you know, get through your days without, you know, thinking and missing them all the time. And I think people have this hopeless, I can relate it to not smoking too. You never smoke cigarettes, but I'll use that as an example. I smoked cigarettes for almost my whole young adult life.
Right.
I quit smoking when I was 40. And I remember when I would get an urge to smoke, and I just quit cold turkey because I had tried everything under the sun to stop smoking, you know, and it didn't work. So if only one day I'm planning this from the date I start, and I'm going to have everything in place. When I want to have a cigarette and I'm on the phone, I'm going to have a pad of paper. When I'm in my car, I would always have a thing of water in my car. So anytime I felt like I wanted to smoke, I would drink water, which we all know is healthy. But I remember going through those cravings and going, oh my God, like, is this ever going to stop? Like, am I ever going to not want a cigarette? And my answer would be, to people that are still smoking, and the answer is you never get over wanting a cigarette, because whenever, like, if I get really super stressed or I have very high anxiety and I'm like, I don't want to say tripping, but Joe, you know how I can get sometimes. I honestly, I do think about a cigarette. I go, oh my God, I you know, but not enough that I want to have a cigarette. But I just remember going through the withdrawal. And there is a withdrawal. Maybe a chemical withdrawal is like 2 weeks. The physical part lasts a lot longer because when you're on the phone, you're smoking. When you're driving the car, I used to smoke. And after my first cup of coffee in the morning, I get up in the morning, first thing I do is hit the floor, smoke a cigarette. So it passes. And it's the same thing with all the good feelings. We focus all the time on the bad feelings. Well, you're not going to be happy and feel that elation like every single minute and every single day of your life. There's always going to be a downtime. And so you should enjoy the happy time and sit in it for a while, knowing that this isn't going to last forever either. I'm going to have a death. I'm going to have a job loss. I'm going to have a day where I fight really bad with my partner and I don't know if we're going to make it. And it's okay to, you know what I mean? But people, they think they think because they've said depression is a disease and depression is whatever.
It's not a disease.
People, no, I know that, but I'm just saying people that, well, you said earlier, they're not educated. So basically they go, oh, thank God they said that depression's a disease. Now what can I do to cure it? I know, oh, there's a pill? Awesome, I'm on board. There's alcohol? I'm totally going to become, get addicted to alcohol. I had this discussion at the salon, it was a while ago, and they said, ask Heidi, she would know why would they kill themselves? And I go, you don't really want the answer. They go, yeah, we do, because you study it, you and Joe talk about it. What's your opinion about that? And I said, I will tell you, they're a very narcissistic human being, and most people that do drugs and drink alcohol to the point of they're abusive, they're abusing their families because their families care about them. They don't want to see them doing this. They give them money, they cry, they hope, they don't want to see their loved one like this. And of course, the person doing the drugs is a narcissist because they don't really care about the pain they're causing their mother, their sister, their brother, whoever it is. All they want is the money for their addiction. And I said, so I would say my opinion, or I don't even want to say opinion, my whatever of that is, it's not genetics, it's not any of that. It's basically they're narcissistic and they're a very selfish human being. And why? Because if I was going to kill myself, I remember when my dad passed away, as depressed as I was at that time, I remember sitting on the bathroom toilet seat, crying my eyes out. I was in an awful marriage, and I had this 3-year-old daughter that I had to raise, and I said, you know what? I have a baby that I'm responsible for. You know what? Get your head out of your ass and do what you need to do to raise this baby. So the people that kill themselves, it's a very selfish act. People will say, well, that's what the conversation was. Do you think it's brave or do you think it's cowardly? I will say my opinion, and I just posted something about opinions and what they mean on Facebook, is that I would have to say you're a very selfish person, because the first thing I would think about is you, my daughter, and all the people that care about me. Why would I want them to be sad?
Well, let me add this to it, because I like where you're going there. I mean, some people can have a problem with it,
and they got mad.
That's good.
A couple of people had a problem with it. They said, how could you say that he was such an amazing this and that? I go, I didn't say, but here's the thing, I didn't say that he wasn't an amazing musician or that he didn't have whatever. I didn't personally attack him. You asked me what I thought about people that can kill themselves, and I basically said I think they're very narcissistic and selfish, and I backed it up with my reasons and what I know from whatever.
Studies will back you up.
And studies are there too.
But let me add a little bit to that, because one of my favorite, I don't want to say authors, but he's a psychiatrist. He's not with us anymore. Viktor Frankl. He was in Auschwitz. And he was a psychiatrist, so he had both, right? He experienced it physically and emotionally and was able to write about it. And he talked about how he survived, and it was his mental strength. And he was actually able to say this story, which was really great. He was talking about how he was with a group of other people. They were obviously going to die. They were in Auschwitz, and they were starving to death. And he was talking about how some of them, they wanted to kill themselves, but they didn't have the energy to do it. You know, I mean, think about that, how bad that is. And he said, well, why would you want to take your life? And the answer that he gave was, he said, the other people said, because this world has nothing to offer me. It's not going to do anything for me. There's nothing there for me. And he said he didn't answer them, but in his head, he said, how narcissistic of you. You were put on this earth. Your creator made you. You know, the world is not supposed to be giving to you. You are given life so you can give back to the universe. You have it totally wrong. So whenever you're sitting there going, my life sucks, nobody's giving me what I want, I'm not doing anything, nobody cares about me, You're supposed to find what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go out there and find it. The two most important days of your life. First one, the day you're born, and the second day when you actually find out why. That's your job. It's not my job.
But here's the other part. I think we have to go for a break in a second. But the other part before we go is that you could live your entire life and not know what your purpose is. The thing is that you need to keep going. Because I don't think any of us, I mean, I'm at a point in my life where I still question, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I was put here to do? And anytime a little new journey gets slapped in my face or some new challenge comes about, I just take it. I say, well, it's here because I'm supposed to do it. And people say, but what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Nobody knows that answer.
No. Maybe your job is to keep fighting, to find your meaning and purpose, and in that way be an inspiration that way. You know, maybe if you're in the worst case scenario, just like Viktor Frankl said, you're in a concentration camp, you cannot change your situation. The only thing you can change is how you think about your situation, and maybe your meaning and purpose is at that time is to be able to face your death with dignity. Maybe that's what it is. You know, who knows?
I don't know. Well, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sandy Castell. Join me weekly for tips on how to stay fit and fabulous forever on The Sandy Castell Show. I'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini.
And today we're talking about skills, not pills. And not to keep belaboring the point, but I just want to get to a few more facts here just so you understand like how bad this really is. 66% of antidepressant prescriptions are from general practitioners, OBGYNs, and pediatricians, who obviously know nothing about mental health. 75% of people taking antidepressant medications don't even have a diagnosis because the people that are giving them the drugs don't know what their problem is. Think about that. And 25% of people taking antidepressants also have a drug or alcohol addiction, kind of like what you were saying about before. So think about how bad that is with that connection there. Now, let's for a second, let's put away reality and say that there is a test for if we could see if there's a neurotransmitter imbalance, which there's not, but let's say there is. Even at that point, we haven't figured out if extra serotonin is actually responsible for making people happy. Let's say it was. But what's really responsible for making a good, happy, functional, healthy human being? One of them is, and Heidi would tell you in her workshop, is self-esteem. Where in the world did anybody think that taking a pill to improve how you feel is going to improve your self-esteem down the road? All it is another drug. You might as well just go out and go to a bar. There's really no difference at that point. Because now I'm medicating you up to feel maybe a little better, maybe. The placebo effect actually works better, by the way, so that shows you that the drug actually doesn't work. But let's say it did work temporarily. What does it do to your self-esteem? Nothing. So it hasn't helped you. As a matter of fact, the only thing it might do is make you up a little bit more. And what's the side effect of that?
You have to come
suicide.
Down at some point.
Now they have the energy to kill themselves. And that's the problem with it too. They don't think about that. And what's another side effect? You lose your sex drive and you get fat. Okay, so if you weren't depressed before, which you already were because you wouldn't be taking the drug, now you're even more. Now you're overweight and can't have sex. You know, so let's think about that. So I really, I can't think of the amount of people that it would actually help is so slim. And even if it did, you would have to go underneath and start building the scaffolding of self-esteem, being able to handle your emotions, being able to find meaning and purpose in your life. Without those, I don't care what drug you take. You might as well be...
Well, and Joe, the other thing is that people have to realize that life is hard. Life is difficult. You know, it is difficult. And with that, you try to surround yourself with people that are, again, when you're going in a positive way, you try to surround yourself with those type of people. And as we all know, when you're doing drugs and alcohol, you are with those kind of people.
Right.
We know this from our children. When our children are being raised and they start hanging out over here, there's a really good likelihood that if you're with a bunch of drug addicts and kids doing drugs, you will experiment. That doesn't mean that you're going to become a drug head or anything, but you're putting yourself in a position of the peer pressure thing. It's the same thing with adults. We all know that everybody that does drugs, all their friends do drugs. They know where to get the drugs. They do drugs together.
Right.
So with trying to move away from that, with your self-esteem, thinking of that, you have to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are at least on the same page as far as where you want to be.
Right.
You
no,
know,
I agree.
And that's what makes you feel good with self-esteem when you accomplish things. You know, the other day when we did the workshop, when I finally got through talking, I was like so proud of myself, because I was like, I can't believe I actually said what I wanted to say in front of all these people, and I didn't and I felt really good. I go, I could do this again. I could do this. I totally could do this again. But when I went in there, I was like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this. Like, I'm like, hello, I'm here. It's like, whatever. But people don't realize that even when you fail at something, say you try something, say if I would have done that workshop and I didn't do well, I got up there and I froze and I was like, never mind. You know what? I don't think I want to speak today. Our next speaker. That would have done one or two things to me. It would have been, I would have said, you know what, I'm going to do, okay, next time I'm going to be better prepared. I'm going to try again next time. So failure is not always bad, and I think people are afraid of that. And they're afraid to go off their drugs. They're afraid, well, what am I going to feel like when I'm not medicated? Now what do I do? Well, you find other things to
Right, and that's why I'm saying it
it
doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. Going with self-esteem. Tell everybody what I did when you asked me to go to your workshop.
Well, you didn't go, and I'm glad you didn't go, because I wanted to do it by myself, because I'm very well capable of, doing my own thing.
So in that sense, I was your drug, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest. You got a little nervous, and you should be. Like, who wouldn't? I get nervous before
I was
every
nervous.
show
I was nervous. It was a little bit of that, but it was nervous because I don't want to ever affect somebody in a negative way, and I don't want to ever say something that would be hurtful to somebody or offend anybody. My intent is not that. So my biggest fear is doing that was coming across as I am, being authentic, and with the care that I went into that with, and not screwing up or saying the wrong thing and sending the wrong message to people. So, because when we do things together on this show, we kind of work off of each other. But when you're standing there and you've got like 15 people staring at you, and they're there in this workshop, it's a self-esteem workshop, they're obviously there because they want some information. It's like, you better know what the heck you're...
That's what I was trying to tell you, because I knew you'd be nervous, and I actually enjoyed that, by the way, because it puts a lot of responsibility on you. You're the one running the show. It's your work. It's all of your heart and soul into it. And when you asked me to go, I would be moral support at home, because I need you to build up self-esteem, right? I would be your drug, right? Like, I don't want to take the pressure off of you. You needed that pressure. So if you did well, it's all on you. You're not going to say I did it. So it's great. You earned it. If there was something that you thought should have been a little bit better, that's good, because you can correct it. You don't have me to blame. Right? So that builds up self-esteem. But that's how you do it. That's how you build self-esteem. It's like when you're trying to teach a little kid to ride a bicycle, you have to let go. We're so helicoptering now with people, and what does it create? It creates an opioid epidemic, because people can't face any feelings. Like you said, failure. I think failure is great. It's excellent. It means that you're trying really hard. When you work out and you're trying to get more muscular, or whatever you're trying to get, leaner,
stretchier.
Right, and you have to go up. No, that's good, but you have to go up to a point.
Oh my God! Do you want me to touch my toes? Okay, I can't.
But in order to do that, you just said the word. I can't. Yeah. When you get to the point where you can't, that's the part where you need to get to improve. If you only do the things that you already know that you're good at, you're never going to improve. So that's the point. Failure is actually a good thing. If you get into athletics, it's all about failure. If you're studying, why would you study things you already know? That's not studying. You have to study things you don't know so you can learn. You know, that's all part of it. Now, you're saying about the group. One of the interesting things in therapy is sometimes we have groups of people that are like-minded. You know, like these AA meetings, and everybody's like, well, I love that because they're so like-minded. They're just like me. They understand me. Well, that's the problem, though, isn't it? That's why there's a 5% recovery rate for an AA. It's like the worst thing ever. There's no science behind it whatsoever. They put a bunch of addicts in one room, and they're like, well, this is great because we all seem to know each other. Awesome. Why don't you connect to a successful person? You know, that's what you need. So what I'm working on...
I think the reason they don't, Joe, is because of the failure thing. I think they both go hand in hand. They don't believe, and again, it comes down to self-esteem. They don't believe that they're capable of setting a goal, that they're going to fail. So rather than step out of that comfort zone that they're used to, they'd rather stay there. And one of the things that we talked about in the workshop was when we take individual women and we say, you have a skill set, you have a skill set, you have experiences, she has experiences. What we want to do is we want to get these women on as individuals together in the community together to bring it together.
Now we're talking.
To help, to really say to this lady, listen, if you say to a lady, one of my sources of contention, I said this at the meeting that day too, is that I don't like life coaches that are all the unicorn and I don't want to say butterfly because that's the name of my thing. The unicorn thing where we go, let's be happy. Come on, everybody, get up out of bed and hit the floor running. Okay, I'm going to say that to a lady that has no husband, 4 kids, and I'm going to say to her, just hit the floor running. You should be happy today that you're alive. Well, I don't have any money to feed my kids.
Right.
What? Okay, so this is where if you can give that person, they're afraid. Maybe she has no skills. Maybe she can't work. Maybe she's terrified to death. Maybe she hasn't worked in 10 years. I've seen that happen. Women stay home with their kids. The husband leaves, and they go, I was a stay-at-home mother. I have no skills. What do I do? I don't know, but let's get you in the direction. Let's get you in touch with these women.
Now you're talking two things on there about what you're saying. In existential philosophy, we talk about if your goal is to be happy, you're going to be depressed. That's just the way it is. Happiness is not the goal.
Right.
What is the goal is it's not the pursuit of happiness. It's the pursuit of meaning and purpose. And taking this person, let's say you're talking about, if meaning and purpose is to be the best mother you can,
right,
and to put 4 great kids on this planet that can take care of themselves, that's all you need. That was like my mother, right?
But here's the other thing. When you're talking about these needs that women have, and even like drug people, drug addicts, when they're looking for help and they want to get out of a situation, society as a whole looks down on them, okay? Because now you go into facilities or they say they reach out. I told my daughter this. I said, when you want to go to college, I go, if you think you're going to be intimidated by the people that are going to interview you, the counselors, whoever they are, because you're afraid that you're going to look stupid because you don't know what they're saying, I will go with you because I don't know probably any more than she does, but because I'm an adult, because I have good self-esteem, I will go with you and I can ask the questions that you're probably afraid to ask. It's the same thing when you get a woman that goes to find help. They treat her a certain way, where if they have an advocate or they have...
I agree with you 100%. And that's what I was saying. I think the counseling model of putting a bunch of people with the same problems all in the same area, not good. What I want to do with my type of program, and I think you're already starting it, is if I have a youth, say an at-risk male teenager, I'm not going to put him with a bunch of other kids that are just talking about the last place they just robbed. It's not going to be helpful. But what I would do is put him with a couple of business owners that I know who are working out and say, listen, it's like a big brother type thing, so they can see how functional people live. You know, and that would be much better.
What do you want, John? The peanut gallery.
I want to argue with that just a little bit, Joe.
Yeah.
Because if I'm trying to accomplish something or I'm trying to make myself better,
right,
a person who has never experienced something that I've experienced has no fucking clue.
Right.
Okay? And let's take bodybuilding because you know something about bodybuilding.
Right.
If you were born with the body that you have right now and somebody came to you and said, hey, I want to learn how to work out, I want to learn how to get a body like yours.
Right.
You have no idea how to tell that person to get from point A to point B. The fact that you started at point A and got to point B,
right.
you now have the experience. So you're not putting people at risk, or people that are addicts or whatever. You're not putting them with with a bunch of people who are at the same place that they are. You want to put them with someone who has been where they've been and made a success out of it.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to raise my hand. You just made a good point, John. The thing with training or anything is that we have been there.
That's my point.
Okay, my point would be this. I would never say to somebody, you should do this or do that, especially if I don't know their journey. Personally speaking, yes, I have smoked. I was overweight. I was in a bad marriage. I had a kid that went off the rails.
But if you had never smoked, how do you tell a person how to quit
You can't,
smoking?
but this is what I'm saying, and that's when it becomes unauthentic, and there's too many programs out there where what I call them the unicorns is that they're saying, first of all, you can't tell. You can't.
Just say no.
Just say no. Say, you know what? I'm not equipped.
How does that work out?
Listen, I'm not equipped to help you with this problem. But you know what? My girlfriend, so and so, Sandy. I have a friend, Sandy. Her name is. She's a nutritionist, right? I'm not an expert in nutrition. I can put you in depletion and I can get you to lose weight, no doubt. Okay. When it comes to balancing. And no, like if somebody has cholesterol issues, they have health issues, I am no way going to put them on a diet because I don't know all the ins and outs of that. But what I would do is say, you know what? I don't really know this. This is not my thing. But my friend Sandy, she's a nutritionalist. She could write a diet for you. I'm going to refer you to you. No, I have never been on the streets homeless with 4 kids. However, I have a friend that works at Safe Nest. She can help you. I have a friend, my boyfriend happens to be a counselor. You can go see him.
Right.
I know this lady over here. And this is what the whole idea is being more authentic with our help, not just talking about it and saying, you need to get better. Well, how am I supposed to get better if I don't know who to talk to?
And that's my point. And most of what you're saying, Joe, I agree with. Just that one point that if someone had never been there, they have no clue how to get from here to there.
I get what you go. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And to me, there's a middle ground. Like, I don't want to name any names, right? Because that's what's going through my head right now, all these people that I know. I know people that have been through the jail, like, all that. They've got out of that. They've changed their life. They run successful businesses. That's who I want my people to be around, not just anybody off the street. What I'm saying is that I want to take a person. Let's say, and I'm thinking of this person. I'm so natural here. I want to say their name, and I'm trying not to. Okay, I've got a person who's 15 years old. I can talk to him. We have a good rapport. Everything's good. Then he goes home. Then he gets his father who beats him. His mother is, whatever, the whole bit. You put that child back into that environment and they become what they're going to become. They need to survive in that environment. He's got a gun under his bed, the whole thing. But if you take that child and put him in with a bunch of other 15-year-old delinquents, he becomes a better delinquent because he has to learn how to throw punches and he's going to be selling drugs. So if I take that person and put him with successful people
who have had that experience.
Right, and I would
because
also
then they understand where he's coming from. They know I've been there.
Right, and
done that. So
and with somewhat of our clout over the years of doing the show for 5 years, we have pretty good access. I can pick that out. Yeah, and that, and I also would say is if somebody's problem is that they go through the drug process and all that, I don't think they have a drug problem. I think they have a I don't love myself problem. They may have been a product of a divorce, or their mother hit them or their father hit them. There's plenty of people that have done well in this country that've been through divorces and stuff. So there's always a positive role model somewhere down the road, and I'd rather drop them into a good environment, right? Like if you take the 5 people that they know, they probably can't be much better than those 5. It's hard to rise above that. But if I can drop them in with 5 people, such as yourself, right? Like, let's say I said, listen, I got this program. I just want this kid to hang out with you for like just 1 hour in a day, just to see how a real man works and deals with people. That would be so beneficial to a young kid, right? He's not out there going, ooh, who do I have to beat up for money? So yeah. How much time do we have?
You have about a minute.
Oh, not much. I was going to say something about what does depression really look like for men. Do you know? Because most people don't. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I think depression for men is not being able to provide for their families.
That's the start of it. What does it look like? Like, can you tell if I'm depressed or not? Like, we know for the average, okay, just for the average woman, it looks like they're sad. They have their eyes down. They cry. They're very emotional.
I can tell when you're not feeling good.
You can tell when somebody's down, right?
Because I'm
like
with you.
Know.
Yeah.
But okay, but what does a man look like? Because 75% of suicides in this country right now are men. We don't think about that because all the services go to women. I'm not making a political stand. I'm just saying the truth. So the services go to women, but 75% of suicides are men. What men? White men. Interesting. We don't have enough time to go through that, but
and veterans.
Veterans
right?
make
up a big part of that.
And what's the age group? 45 to 55.
Yep.
So we have white males, 45 to 55 years old, 75% of the suicides. So what does it look like? Because obviously we're not seeing it.
Well, I think, again,
something.
we talked about this, that men have to walk around and they're not allowed to say anything, complain, talk about it. And that's why there's such a high incidence of suicide and homelessness again with males, because as a society and a culture, we've told the men to shut up, and the women do all the talking. So it's okay for a woman to verbalize how she feels. She can cry, she can yell, she can, do whatever she needs to do to get it off her chest. But when a man shows emotions, he's either taken as a weak man, violent man, because if they start loud, oh my God, now you're being verbally abusive. You're not allowed to do that. So most men, unless you're with the man, I could tell when you're having a bad day and you're not feeling so good. But most of the time, men, they're not verbal about it. Like, if they're with their woman, everything's fine. I'm good.
Yeah, so
good,
what you'll see is that they say a lot of men live a life of quiet desperation, right? And that would show you that they don't want to show you how bad they feel. But it does come out in some other ways, because there are social acceptable ways for men to show their feelings. Anger and irritability. So it's like, yeah, I'm angry. So again, not to be political, but let's I find this so interesting. Let's look at that. Caucasian, 45 to 55, very angry, male. Trump voters. Again, not to be mean, but I'm just saying that, and I don't mean to be that way. What I'm saying is that I'm not here to make fun of them in any way. They're killing themselves. So when I see all that anger and that rage and this and then that, I don't have to agree with them. But these guys need hugs. There's something there. And then the next question goes, I know we're running out of time, why? What is so bad in this world that you're so angry that you're going to kill yourself if you don't get your way? We took away the manufacturing jobs. We took away a lot of construction jobs. We took away a lot of mid-level management jobs. Men, by percentage, love to be married. People don't want to talk about that, but they love to be married. When they get divorced, their chance of killing themselves is very high. Women actually get happier after a divorce. It's an amazing thing. And the divorces are 70% of divorces are filed by women. So these guys, that's where we go. So as a therapist, I would look at what is hurting them and why. And that's just another way to
further workshops on that to come.
Right, and that's the start of my male workshop program, by the way. So if you're interested. Anyway, this has been the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini.